Peak performance, elevate your game, avoid burnout, and thrive with the new science of success. By Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness. Imagine this scene for a moment. It's 2003. An anxious 18-year-old sits cross-legged on the grass, eyes glued to his Game Boy, desperately trying to ignore his surroundings. All around him, Olympic medalists stretch and visualize, lost in their pre-race rituals. This isn't some weekend high school track meet. This is the Prefontaine Classic, basically the Super Bowl of track and field. Just days earlier, this kid was sitting in physics class, daydreaming about his crush. Now he's about to race against the fastest runners on the planet. He keeps his head down, whispering to himself, "Don't look up, don't look up," trying to keep his nerves in check as he walks into the roaring stadium. 4 minutes and 1 second later, it's done. He's just become the 6th fastest high school miler in American history. His future looks impossibly bright. Olympic dreams dance through his mind, and honestly, they seem completely realistic. Now picture a different young man, this one in Washington, D.C., just a few years later. He's speed-walking to his first day at a new job. Not just any job, though. He's heading to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House. He's barely 24 years old, and he's already built a reputation as a star performer at McKinsey, one of the world's most elite consulting firms. He grinds through 70-hour weeks, powered by obsessive ambition. His friends tease him, calling him anti-fun, but it worked. He created this complex economic model that caught the eye of presidential advisors, and now here he is, helping shape national healthcare policy. His friends joke that someday he might actually run the country. 2 young men, one blazing across the track, the other conquering the world of high-stakes policy, both absolute shooting stars, seemingly destined for the top. You might be thinking, who are these guys, and how can I get what they have? But here's the thing. That's not actually the story we're here to tell. Because the running prodigy, he never ran faster than he did that day. His times plateaued, his body broke down, and his love for the sport just faded. And that brilliant young consultant? He left the White House and hasn't gotten a promotion since. He burned so bright that he simply burned out. These aren't rare stories. They happen constantly, especially to the most talented and driven people. And what makes these particular stories so compelling is that they're about the authors of this very book. The runner was Steve Magness. The consultant was Brad Stulberg. Years after their separate crashes, they met, compared notes, and became fascinated by one life-changing question. Can you actually achieve sustainable, healthy peak performance? Can you reach the top without completely falling apart? Their book, Peak Performance, is their answer. It's this beautiful mix of incredible stories and solid science, revealing the hidden patterns that connect the world's greatest athletes, artists, thinkers, and entrepreneurs. It sold hundreds of thousands of copies and become a modern classic for anyone wanting to push their limits without breaking themselves. Today, we're diving into the secrets they uncovered. We're exploring a simple but profound equation that drives all growth, whether you're building muscle, mastering a skill, or solving complex problems. By the time we're done, you'll have a roadmap not just to level up your game, but to do it in a way that's fulfilling, sustainable, and genuinely human. Let's set the stage. Have you ever felt pressure to perform? If you're alive right now, the answer is almost definitely yes. The bar for success keeps climbing higher. College admissions get more competitive every year. The job market is a global cage match. And we're not just competing against each other anymore. We're competing against machines that literally never need sleep. This constant pressure has created this silent epidemic of anxiety, depression, and burnout. We work longer hours, take fewer real breaks, and feel more overwhelmed than ever. In this relentless race, people are desperate for any edge. They turn to sketchy supplements, with wild promises, or even performance-enhancing drugs, creating this culture where exceptional success is automatically met with suspicion. We see it in sports, with endless doping scandals, and in schools and offices, with people misusing stimulants like Adderall. The message seems clear. To win, you have to grind yourself into dust, and maybe bend a few rules along the way. But the authors are here to tell us that's complete nonsense. There's a better way, a way that's healthy, sustainable, legal, and available to everyone. Their journey led them to this universal principle, a simple but powerful formula that governs all growth. It applies equally to an Olympic weightlifter, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, and a high school kid studying for finals. This principle is what they call the growth equation, and it's the beating heart of the entire book. The equation is this: stress plus rest equals growth. Think about it for a second. How do you build a stronger muscle? You go to the gym and lift weights. You apply stress that pushes just slightly beyond your current ability. You lift until your muscles are exhausted, creating these tiny micro tears in the tissue. That stress is the signal. But the actual growth doesn't happen while you're grunting under the barbell. The magic happens afterward, when you rest. During that recovery period, your body doesn't just patch up the muscle. It rebuilds it to be slightly stronger than before, so it can handle that same challenge more easily next time. Stress is the stimulus. Rest is when the adaptation, the actual growth happens. If you pile on too much stress without enough rest, you get injured or burn out. If you rest too much without enough stress, you plateau and never improve. The secret to lasting success in any area is mastering the delicate dance between these two forces. Let's break down each part of this equation, starting with stress. When we hear stress, we usually think negative, fighting with someone, a looming deadline, feeling swamped, but the authors want us to rethink this. In the context of growth, stress is simply a challenge, something that pushes us toward the edge of what we can handle. The key is finding what the book calls just manageable challenges. This is the sweet spot for growth. It's a task that feels slightly out of your control, but not so much that you spiral into full anxiety. Think of it like this. If something's too easy, you're bored. If it's way too hard, you're anxious. The sweet spot is right on that edge between control and anxiety. It's that feeling of stretching yourself, where you're not quite sure if you can pull it off, but you're willing to give it a shot. That's where growth lives. This idea is backed by decades of research on how we learn. Studies show that real learning doesn't happen when we're just fed answers. It happens when we're forced to struggle. They call it productive failure. When you wrestle with a tough math problem and get it wrong a few times before finally cracking it, you learn it on a way deeper level than if someone had just handed you the solution. Why? Because that struggle forces your brain to engage more fully, to fire up what Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls System 2 inches thinking, our slow, effortful, analytical mind. This struggle literally builds and strengthens the neural pathways in your brain. As the book beautifully puts it, skills come from struggle. So if stress is key, how do we apply it effectively? This brings us to deliberate practice. This isn't just about logging hours. The authors share fascinating research showing that experience alone doesn't make you an expert. There are doctors with 20 years of experience who are no better at diagnosing patients than those with just 5 years. The difference between top performers and everyone else isn't how much they practice, it's how they practice. Deliberate practice has 2 essential ingredients. First, it involves those just manageable challenges we talked about, constantly pushing to the edge of your ability. Second, and equally important, it requires deep, unbroken concentration. This is where most of us completely fail in the modern world. We live in constant distraction. The authors tell this great story about Dr. Bob Kocher, a guy who's been a physician, a top consultant, a White House advisor, and a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, all while being present as a husband and father. His secret? He's the ultimate single-tasker. He told the authors, "It's not that I can't multitask, but when I do multitask, everything suffers, so I just don't multitask, ever." He breaks his day into focused blocks, and when he's doing one thing, he's doing only that one thing. Our brains, science shows, simply aren't wired for multitasking. When we think we're doing 2 things at once, We're really just rapidly switching between them, and every single switch has a cost. This constant switching can eat up to 40% of our productive time. Not only does it make our work worse in the moment, it also damages our ability to filter out distractions and form long-term memories. The biggest villain, of course, is our smartphone. The book explains that our phones are literally designed like slot machines. Every time we pull down to refresh email or social media, we're pulling that lever. We don't know if we'll get a reward, a new like, a message, an interesting update, but that possibility releases dopamine in our brains. It's the chase, the uncertainty, that makes it so addictive. It's so powerful that many of us experience phantom vibration syndrome, feeling our phone buzz when it's not even nearby. The solution? It's painfully simple, yet incredibly effective. Out of sight, out of mind. Research shows that even having your phone face down on your desk is a distraction. Your brain has to burn precious willpower just resisting the urge to check it. The most effective move is to put it in another room entirely when you need to do deep, focused work. The best performers structure their days around this principle. They work in focused, uninterrupted blocks, typically between 60 and 90 minutes. After a block of intense work, they take a quick break before diving into the next one. This isn't slacking. It's a strategic way to manage energy and maintain high-quality work all day long. So, to recap the first half of the equation, growth starts with applying the right kind of stress. This means taking on just manageable challenges, embracing the struggle, and doing deliberate practice with deep, single-minded focus, free from the constant distractions of modern life. But all the stress in the world is useless, and actually dangerous, without the second, often overlooked part of the equation, rest. In our hustle and grind culture, rest gets treated like weakness, like laziness. We worship the entrepreneur sleeping in the office, and the athlete, who never takes a day off. But peak performance argues this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how growth actually works. Rest isn't the opposite of work. It's an essential part of work. It's when our bodies and minds adapt, repair, and grow stronger. The authors share this incredible story about Roger Bannister, the first person to run a mile in under 4 minutes. In 1954, this was considered physically impossible. Bannister had tried and failed repeatedly, but right before his history-making race, he did something that shocked everyone in the running world. He went on a multi-day hiking and climbing trip in the Scottish mountains. He completely unplugged from his intense training. Basically, he rested. When he came back, he wasn't just physically fresh, he was psychologically renewed. That rest gave his body the time it needed to absorb all his hard training, and it was the key that unlocked his historic breakthrough. As the book puts it, the best performers don't just work harder than everyone else, they rest harder too. So what does effective rest actually look like? It's more than just collapsing on the couch watching Netflix. The book explores several powerful forms of rest. First is mindfulness. We meet Shad-Meng Tan, an early Google engineer who noticed his brilliant colleagues were amazing at, quote, turning on, but terrible at turning off. Their minds raced constantly, making it impossible to truly disconnect and recover. So he created a mindfulness meditation course at Google called Search Inside Yourself. It became wildly popular, and for good reason. Mindfulness meditation, even just a few minutes daily, strengthens a brain region called the prefrontal cortex. This is your brain's command center. It lets you respond to situations thoughtfully instead of just reacting emotionally. When we're stressed, our more primitive brain, the amygdala, can hijack us, trapping us in cycles of anxiety and worry. A strong prefrontal cortex lets you notice those feelings without drowning in them. It's the ability to have what one coach in the book calls a calm conversation with yourself when things get rough. It lets you turn off the stress response and shift into recovery mode. Another powerful form of rest is allowing space for creative breakthroughs. Ever notice that your best ideas don't arrive when you're staring at a screen, trying to force them? They pop up in the shower, on a walk, or right as you're falling asleep. The writer Woody Allen says he relies on taking showers to solve his creative problems. This isn't random. When we're doing focused, effortful work, we're using our conscious mind, which thinks linearly and logically. But when we step away and let our minds wander, a different brain network takes over, the default mode network. This is our subconscious mind. It works in a more random, connecting the dots kind of way, linking ideas that our conscious mind would never pair together. Taking breaks, especially by walking or being in nature, opens the door to this creative powerhouse. Of all the forms of rest, though, the most critical is sleep. We live in a sleep-deprived society, often treating sleep as a luxury we can sacrifice for more work. This, the book argues, is a catastrophic mistake. Sleep isn't passive. It's one of the most productive things we can do. While we sleep, our brain is hard at work consolidating everything we learned during the day. One fascinating study had people, including some with severe amnesia, play Tetris for hours. When researchers woke them throughout the night, even the amnesiacs who couldn't remember playing reported dreaming of falling shapes. During sleep, our brain replays our experiences, extracts meaning, and decides what to store in long-term memory. Without enough sleep, much of the hard work we do while awake just gets lost. And it's not just our minds that grow during sleep, our bodies do too. After a hard workout, your body is in breakdown mode. During sleep, it shifts to rebuilding mode. Hormones like testosterone and human growth hormone flood your system, repairing muscle tissue and making you stronger. The irony is that many athletes illegally inject these very hormones when they could get a safe, natural, and even more powerful dose simply by getting an extra hour or two of sleep. And the most powerful sleep stages happen late in the cycle, which means those 7th, 8th, and 9th hours are the most valuable. The final piece of the puzzle, the force that ties everything together and lets you push through the toughest challenges, is purpose. The book opens this section with a jaw-dropping story. A man named Tom Boyle witnessed an 18-year-old cyclist get hit by a car and trapped underneath. Without thinking, Boyle, an average-sized guy, ran to the car and lifted the front end, letting others drag the kid out. Later calculations showed he'd lifted over 1,000 pounds. How is that even possible? Exercise scientist Tim Noakes proposed this theory of a central governor in our brain. He argues that fatigue isn't just a physical limit in our muscles. It's a protective mechanism our brain controls. Our brain holds us back, shutting us down way before we reach our actual physical limits, to keep us safe. But in moments of extreme crisis, or when driven by a powerful purpose beyond ourselves, we can override this governor. This is the power of a self-transcending purpose, a reason for doing something that's bigger than your ego, your comfort, or your personal success. We see this in the amazing story of Jennifer Farr Davis, who attempted to break the speed record for hiking the entire Appalachian Trail. 12 days in, she was physically and mentally destroyed, suffering from shin splints and diarrhea, ready to quit. But at her lowest moment, she had this profound mindset shift. She stopped obsessing about herself, the record, her pain, her potential failure. Instead, she focused on her love for her husband, who was supporting her, her love for nature, and her love for her faith. Her why became bigger than herself. That shift gave her a completely new energy source. She went on to shatter the overall record, averaging an unbelievable 47 miles per day. Having purpose isn't just helpful in extreme situations, it's a powerful source of everyday motivation. Research shows that doing something for others is a way more potent motivator than money or fame. It's what psychologist Angela Duckworth calls grit, the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Gritty people are often driven by something that transcends themselves. Purpose is also the ultimate shield against burnout. Psychologist Adam Grant found that burnout isn't just about being tired. It's about feeling like your work doesn't matter. He discovered that even in helping professions like teaching and nursing, where burnout is everywhere, giving people chances to see the direct, tangible impact of their work can reignite their passion and protect them from exhaustion. So how do you find your purpose? The book offers a simple, powerful exercise. It's not some mystical journey. It's a rational process of reflection. You start by identifying your core values, the principles that matter most to you, like creativity, community, achievement, or kindness. Then you create a short purpose statement that connects those values to action. It doesn't have to be about saving the world. It can be as simple as, to be the best athlete I can be so others are inspired to push their limits, or to give the kids in my school a clean, welcoming building. This purpose becomes your North Star. You can write it down and stick it somewhere you'll see daily. You can use it as a mantra when things get brutal. When your mind is screaming at you to quit, you can ask yourself why you're doing this. And if the answer is for someone or something greater than yourself, you'll be far more likely to keep going. In the end, peak performance brings us back to that simple, elegant equation. Stress plus rest equals growth. But it adds this powerful multiplier, purpose. Purpose is what lets us embrace the stress, gives us the courage to truly rest, and helps us find meaning in the whole process. It transforms the pursuit of success from a selfish grind into a fulfilling journey. It teaches us that one of the best ways to improve yourself is to think a little less about yourself. As we close the pages on peak performance, what strikes me most is the profound simplicity at its core. In a world selling us complex life hacks, miracle supplements, and hustle culture myths, the idea that growth comes from a simple rhythm of stress and rest feels both revolutionary and deeply intuitive. It's a principle we see everywhere in nature, in the seasons, in the tides, in our own heartbeat, yet something we've completely forgotten in our own lives. The authors, Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness, offer us a roadmap back to a more human way of achieving excellence. Their personal stories of burnout give the book incredible authenticity. They aren't gurus preaching from some mountaintop. They're explorers who got lost, found their way back, and drew a map for the rest of us. The most powerful and, I think, the toughest lesson in this book is having the courage to rest. It's easy to understand the value of hard work. Our society celebrates it, rewards it, demands it, but to intentionally step away, to trust that growth is happening in those quiet moments of recovery, that takes real confidence and discipline. It requires unlearning the toxic belief that being busy equals being productive. This book redefines rest not as an absence of activity, but as an active, vital process. Sleep becomes a cognitive and physical superpower. A walk in the woods becomes a creative strategy session. A conversation with a friend becomes a biological recovery tool. This shift in perspective is, I believe, the key to unlocking the book's wisdom. And finally, the concept of self-transcending purpose is the anchor holding it all together. It answers the fundamental question, why bother? Why endure the stress? Why commit to disciplined rest? Because you're serving something bigger than your own comfort or ambition. Whether that's your family, your community, your art, or values you hold dear, that purpose is the fuel that keeps you going when willpower runs out. If you're a student feeling exam pressure, an athlete trying to reach the next level, an artist struggling with creative block, or anyone who simply wants to improve without falling apart, this book offers a timeless and powerful framework. To start applying these ideas today, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. Start small. First, identify just one, manageable challenge in your life this week. What's one thing you can do that pushes you slightly outside your comfort zone? Second, practice true rest. For your next important task, put your phone in another room for just 60 minutes. Experience what it feels like to work with singular focus. Then give yourself a real break afterward. A short walk, some deep breaths, anything but scrolling through feeds. And third, take 5 minutes right now to reflect on your why. You don't need a perfect purpose statement. Just ask yourself, what's a reason bigger than myself for doing the hard work I do? That was a summary of Peak Performance by Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness. We've explored the core ideas today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a photograph of an amazing meal. You can see what's in it, but you can't truly taste it. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when a particular story or simple phrase connects with you in an unexpected way. This summary is here to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you approach your life, your work, and your own potential. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.